I'll go with one. This might be a controversial statement to some people. You say every woman wants to be in a love story. That's what women want.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is controversial, or could be
Misconstrued.
or could be even taken directly and still said, "I don't agree with you." That's okay. What I've discovered from women is that, from the women I've talked to, and of course, I paint everything is black and white. I say women are all this way. Having said that, we all know that this is it's not the same for all women. So let me say it. With that disclaimer, I'll say this. All women want to be in a love story, because women have told me, and old and young, like I said before, women tell me things that they've never told anybody before, because I'm curious and I want to know. And they tell me things like that, and they want to be caught up in something romantic. By romance, I don't mean necessarily the romantic novel type thing with, a bodice ripper novel. But they want to be caught up in the romance of life as opposed to the mundane of life. The romantic notion that we can skip along and have great moments of treasure and ecstasy and fun. They want to be caught up in that, and yet there's not a lot of fun. There's not a lot of these moments. So just like I think I wrote in this chapter that men are the truly romantic ones.
Yeah.
Right? We think it's women are all the sentimental ones. No, it's the men who are sentimental. They just hide it. It's the men that are the sappy ones. Women are far more practical, pragmatic when it comes to relationships. Men are lost and clueless and yearning and scratching at the door. And women are like, okay, and women are highly sensitive and romantic in their spirit, but they also have a lot. Strange to say.
Yeah, I want to know more about that.
They have a logic in their relationship mind.
How does that work?
Because they think about relationships all the time, and we don't.
I've been asked the question so many times by women. So I traveled a lot and been with women in various places, and they would say, should I fall in love with you? Almost as if they let themselves go to a certain depth, and then they're like, well, this guy's going to go in a little while. Is he deep enough? It's almost like this lever or this on-off switch, which is, if he says yes and I trust him, then I can let myself fall in love. But if he says no, I can rationally somehow stop myself falling any deeper and keep my feelings in check somehow.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Women, it's not like women can control their emotions or they're falling in love more than any guy. But I think women understand more than men the practical side of things. This is why, and I think I wrote it in here, that when a relationship breaks up, like a long-term relationship breaks up, it's the man who's in trouble, not the woman. He's the one that saw the signs but ignored them, thinking, she'll be okay if I just buy her some flowers and maybe she'll be quiet and all these kinds of things. And she's fully in the conversation. She's fully wanting to explore it with him and talking about it, buying lingerie to rekindle something, wanting to talk and talk and talk. And he's like, he's just trying to put Band-Aids on things and hoping the problem will go away like it did every other time when she was upset about something, until the point where it's too late. And now he has to resolve in his mind all his heartbreak and all his, what can I do to save this relationship, which becomes his full focus, where she's been thinking that for weeks, months, maybe years already, to the point where she's discussed with all her girlfriends, with her mother, with anybody who will listen, and she has come to terms with it, resolved it, sorted it out in her mind, already kind of planned what she's going to do next. And he's hit like a boom, like a boulder rolling down a mountain. So he becomes useless. Can't work, can't sleep, and she's done.
Men don't want to listen to the problems of the modern day man. They don't want to talk about the relationship. Go get a beer. That's what you said in here.
Exactly.
So
You don't talk about it with anybody.
We definitely don't have the knowledge because we don't talk about it. We can't talk about it with our friends because it's frowned upon.
You wuss.
Yeah.
Man up.
Grab your handbag, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it works in our world.
So you're saying on the one hand that women are much more pragmatic, practical when it comes to relationships, and yet you say at heart every woman wants to be caught up in a love story.
Yeah. Yeah, they want to be caught up in something larger than themselves, what I'm trying to say. The romance. They want to have a romantic life. And we do too.
And they're pragmatic about it.
And they're wistful about it. Because they're not getting it.
Yeah.
They're not getting it. So they're pragmatic about what the reality of what they're getting.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But they would love to be swept off their feet and abandoned. But they don't get it. They get sensible men to come along with sensible careers, and he's a sensible father, and and they don't ever get the sense of being caught up in a wave of I mean, I'm talking about a man with and a wife, for instance, a husband and a wife. There's a sensible arrangement there. Yeah, we got this figured out. Let's have sex on a schedule once a week, and let's watch our TV.
So for me, what I'm getting from this is every woman who wants to have that romance, and every man who is a romantic at heart.
Yeah.
If they just shy away from mediocrity and go for what they truly want,
Yeah.
then that's what pretty much that sums up what the women are after as well.
Exactly. And not because men are romantics. Men are the ones that, like, if a man goes to sea or climbs a mountain, that's for romance. That's for and we say romance is a certain word, but to me it's a broad stroke, a broad meaning of the word romance, which is to be caught up in something, adventure.
The understanding I've got of that word is a romantic is somebody who takes very simple thing, could be a woman, in this case it's a pen, and through his own, it's a beautiful pen if you get romantic about it, right? Yeah. And through his way of looking and seeing and imagining a future with the pen, turns this thing into something much grander.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because we can look at things in a very practical, low-level way, which is, that's a pen, it's constructed in a practical way, but somebody sat and created the art of that pen, said, hey, let's make this translucent, and let's make this kind of like movement in the pen this way.
And there's the idea of a nation as well, right? A lot of people nowadays are falling out of love with the nations that we come from. Oh, it's a bit of a shame to come from one of these Western countries where we're all cold. It's nothing more than a government and some lines and some economic policies, and that's it. And yet romantics will look at their nation, their flag, they will know their history, they will create this mythological, ancestral love affair with who their people are and who are the philosophers and the poets and the artists. What are the roots of this land? And they'll pass their days by and reading history books, sitting in museums and talking about the beauty that's come before them.
Yeah.
And I guess the same with women. Oh, yeah, she's a hot girl. She comes out, when I call her up 3 times a week, I've got this girl in my life, it's okay.
Very practical. Very, mundane.
Here she is, I can measure her with a tape measure.
Right. It's exactly, it's like, it's still stating the obvious, but it's not celebrating it.
Yes. Yeah, that's just a practical way of looking at it. That's a simple way of looking at that pen. Or we can wax poetic about it and say all kinds of things about it. And I think, maybe it's what it is, you guys, is
It's the rose tinted glasses.
which is usually a bad thing to say. Because it's like optimism for no reason or overly optimistic. But maybe there's, what we're trying to talk about here is the art of the relationship. the artistic side of a relationship. Because when I talk about feeling, and I talk about energy, and about how it makes you feel, and how there's a painting that we're trying to create, and the tapestry, and holding hands here, and with your woman talking about possibilities out here, painted horizon that we're describing in a landscape out here. And maybe it's only an artist's view, what we're talking about here.
I'm interested in if it's a cultural thing. Like, Jordan, when you're talking about the romantic of the country, Brazil comes to mind as one of those countries where there's a lot of brokenness. Brazilian people are very proud of their country.
Yeah.
And in that culture, there's a huge, Latino culture, there's a huge belief in romance, particularly countries like Italy. But coming from a British background, it's probably the same for all of us. I know a lot of women who are very, very suspicious of romance, very cynical about it. The British culture is quite like, almost like a proud, cynical, pessimistic view.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if women in those cultures want romance at all, or if they fool themselves into believing they don't, but they secretly do. That's an unanswered question for me.
I've got a perspective on that.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think the British are very romantic, but it's like this quiet, what is it? Rolling on in quiet desperation type thing that Pink Floyd sang about. And I think if you watch TV, there's a lot of yearning for yesteryear when we had like boat culture and ocean culture and rowing, and you see what happens around the Olympics where the team gets stronger and wins a load of medals. They love their country. And conversely, what I actually found in Brazil, where there's so much sensuality and flirting in the air, never met more pragmatic women in my life when it comes to relationships.
Boy, that's for sure. That is for sure. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. It's almost like that you need a balance of the pragmatism and the...
You know what an interesting thing?
romance.
In the construction of this book, my editor's in New York City, and she told me when I first approached her with the project, she didn't know who I was or anything like this, and she said, you know what, I'll tell you the truth about me. I'm a New York woman. Relationships are business to me. I've seen some things. I'm the most unromantic woman there is. And so I'm probably not the best person to be working with you on this project. But I'll take a look at it. Years later, we went back and forth for years. We had the most spirited dialogue, the most spirited conversations. Her whole heart came forth, and she loves the project. And her voice was invaluable to me.
Mm.
She said, I'm kind of the Sex and City, jaded, dated New York guys, and I've seen a few things, and I'm very unromantic. And so if there's any romance in this, I'm not the best person to be your editor. And and she was a fantastic editor. And we went back and forth, and we had great conversations. And it was a great experience to have her voice.
You make fun of Dr. Freud in your book and the question, what do women want?
Sure.
And it sounds like, and we'll talk about women's role, right, in a moment. But it sounds like underneath the modern big city consumer worldview and the dating life that's born out of that, as you say here, a woman's heart remains a female.
Yeah.
And it's like once you could get underneath those layers of roles or those layers of conditioning or culture or habit, the core thing is that there is romance in there. There was that yearning for a love story.
Yeah, and I will get slammed for saying that, because women will say, no, that's an unrealistic man's picture. You're painting women with the same light, and you're projecting what you want women to be, and we're stronger than that, and we don't need you men telling us, right? And I will get slammed for that, for saying these kinds of things, that underneath that woman is still a female.
Do you think that kind of objection that you've just named there is the objection of this role? It's not the true core nature at the center of her heart?
Clarify that. What do you mean? So that argument that I just spoke...
Yeah, you just spoke the argument of, hey, like, our role is, no, we're not these romantics. I'm not here for being lovers or being seduced or being wives or anything else. Do you think that is the voice of the role, not the voice of the depth of her heart?
That's the voice of absolutely, I do. That's the voice of repeating what what's been taught, I think.
The role, the worldview.
The worldview,
vernacular,
society
common
saying
vernacular.
this, a backlash against patriarchal, the whole thing, yeah. I don't believe that is really, I'll say it, I don't believe that's really the heart of women speaking. I will own that.
I would throw back in support of what you're saying. I'd throw back a different question to these people that are challenging it is, there are many different types of relationships. You can have a business type relationship with a man or woman, as your New York editor had. You can have a game playing relationship. You can have a friendship relationship. What is the most beautiful relationship? Is that not the romantic relationship? Whether or not if that's your heart, your culture, what is the type of spirit you want to create?
To me it is. To you it is. To you it is. To you it is. From all these different cultures and backgrounds, and we've talked to men and women all over the world, for sure, in many, many countries who they say, and we can feel that is their view too. Having said that, there's a lot of views out there that is an unrealistic, over-romantic, rose-colored glasses way of looking at things, and it makes no sense in the modern world. That's okay. I'm not trying to convince or defend or explain my position on anything. I'm not at all. Like someone can sit and attack me and say, you know what, you said this on page 283 and I don't agree because blah, 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 and I'm a sociologist and that's okay. I'm not going to get up my dander and say, no, hold on, what I really meant, listen, you're taking it wrong. You're taking it out of context. I don't say anything. I was on a radio show in Texas years ago. And there was a man and a woman. It was a morning show, and we were doing a seminar, I think, in Texas, or an event or something. And Hans and I were on the show, and the morning show, and the girl and the guy, and they have banter off each other, and they tell jokes, and it's the most popular morning show in Texas or something like that. A lot of listeners, and so the guy's on there, and he said, "Okay, Zan, listen, tell us the truth. You're having this workshop this weekend. This." Yeah, we have a lot of guys signed up, and we're proud to be in Texas, happy to be here, love Texas. Okay, now tell me the truth. What are you teaching these guys? Well, we're talking about how to have a better conversation with women, how to do the usual stuff I say. And he says, okay, what you're really teaching them is how to get laid, huh? You're teaching these guys this weekend how to get laid on Friday night, Saturday night, this weekend. You're going to take them out and show them, teach them how to get laid, right? I said, well, I make no judgment on what anybody's goal is. I can't speak for these men who are coming. They may want to get laid Friday and Saturday night. That could be an okay goal. But what I'm saying and what we're trying to describe to the men is something underneath that can make any goal a possibility for a man. You want to have sex? If you have this truth in you and speaking it. And he kept going, you guys are just teaching, come on, tell us. You're just trying to be nice on the radio here. You're really teaching guys how to just get laid, right? And that's the whole point of this. And I shut up. Because there was no invitation there was no curiosity in his questions, more like an attack. And I have no desire in me, and nothing in me that feels a need to defend or explain. And I never give, the old saying is never give your light where it's not invited. So I have nothing to say to this guy. I'm on the air, dead air on the radio, and he's asked me a question, and I sat there and just looked at him. I have nothing to say to this man, nothing, right? His partner, his morning partner, laid into him. Says, you know what? Do you have a girlfriend right now? Well, you need to take the seminar. This is the best thing I ever heard. This is the best thing to come to Texas in. You need to take it. And why don't you go? Look at you. You could use some tips. You're out. And he's like, And it was funny. She stepped in and started just like laying into this guy, right? In a joking way, but like saying, you need to take the seminar. I'm signing up. I'm paying for it. Like this, right? And as we were driving away from, they went to break and we were done our segment, and Hans and I were in the car driving away. We had the radio on still, and they came back from the commercial, and she was still going at it. You know what? I'm calling those guys up. I'm going to go to their website and sign you up. But for the guy. So the same thing my point is the same thing with elements that might come along and say, listen, we're far more educated in this kind of stuff than you are. I'm a sociologist, a psychologist, and you're talking this little surface whimsical stuff that you got from your narrow experience, from the narrow band of women you've seen in your life. And so we're going to say that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, but if there's any kind of an attack in that, or any kind of a desire or a non-desire to share more information, which I'm very curious about, I have nothing to say. Doesn't bother me. Nothing phases me with that kind of thing. So here I am writing an entire book to women. It's written to women, not to men. It's written to women, and it's about women. And like I said, that's what a presumptuous thing to do. And I have an entire chapter inside this book about women called "The Way of Women." Who says that without getting slapped around, right? Who says that? How can you possibly say that you know anything about the way of women? And I still did it.